Let's talk about the water triplicity. What is water? If you think about it, we're made out of 80% water. Everything around us, 71% of Earth is made up of water. Everything is ruled by the flow of life. We need water to survive, to be energized within, to have electrolytes that energize our body in order for us to flow, to function, to have energy, where we fuel the body with water. And psychologically, we need to have our emotions in check so we can flow with the water and not stay stuck in the ice of the water. So when we look at astrology, we can understand how these deep concepts of mind play out in our psyche. There's 3 different types of modalities that the constellations, the archetypes, show. And we can see that universally. There's 4 different elements, and within each element, there's 3 different modalities. So the 3 different modalities is what's going to differentiate how that element is going to be manifested. So all of these unique elements create a synergy. Depending on where that synergy is going to be directed is the combination of what dominates the mathematical equation of all of these. So if you have more dominant of earth, if you have more dominant of water, if you have more dominant of fire or air, that's going to dictate where you potentially have a stronger aspect of yourself that you can start fueling into something when you look deeper into your psyche and you uncover your own self beyond the illusions of what you've been conditioned. Right now I'm going to talk about the 3 different modalities of water. The more we understand our own unique water, that can be seen through the archetypes of Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces, then the more we can understand how to use our water in our own unique way. And that's the same for each unique element, and each unique sign, each unique modality is going to determine and give you the understanding of your own unique psyche. There's 3 different modalities within each water sign. So each different modality is going to determine how that water is going to be shaped. Water needs to be transformed. So all of these are stages of water we have to go through in our own unique chart. So from Cancer all the way through Pisces. Cancer stems from the 4th house, your foundation. So Cancer is the wave. It's the cardinal water. It's the initiator of the water. That's why Cancers are ruled by the moon. They create and initiate cycles. Scorpio is a fixed water. So what's fixed water? It's stuck water. But they can see beyond the illusions because they can stay stuck in the emotion, and that's what makes them transformative. Scorpio is ruled by the planet of aggression, passion, desires. And then Pisces is ruled by Jupiter. Pisces is the mutable water. It's the water that flows. So it's the collective unconscious. It's the water that's stable, but it's not stable at the same time because it can transform at any time. So it can pick up emotions the most. And that's what makes them elusive sometimes, and that's what makes them very sensitive to their environment. But at the same time, when they're able to shape the water and flow with it, that's what makes them creative, intuitive, emotionally attuned. Wherever you have your water signs in your chart, and depending on the aspects they're doing, that's going to give you an understanding of the energy force created together, the synergy. Here we have my example that I always use is that my ascendant is in Virgo. My 1st house starts in Virgo. Depending where your ascendant is going to determine where your ascendant starts. My sun, for instance, in Pisces, in the 6th house, because my degree would fall in the 6th house instead of the 7th house. That's how unique astrology is, because depending on the degree, depending on the aspect, and depending on your own unique house, there's many different systems that you can adapt to understand it. When looking at your blueprint, your birth chart, these are the energies, and the whole thing together is your own unique synergy. If you have Pisces in your 6th/7th house, then that means that your 6th and 7th house would have the archetypal structure of Pisces, which is mutable water. So understanding that you have your Pisces in the 6th and 7th house, what is the 6th and 7th house? Well, I think this is a bad example because this is opposing energies, which I have in my chart. But essentially, you can look up where these energies are in your chart. If the Pisces is in the 6th house, and that means the 6th house would have the archetypal structure of the Pisces, which is mutable water. So the way you deal with your everyday, the way you place your work, routine. What's the 6th house traditionally? It's work, routine, what you're doing an everyday, what you work on. So if I have Pisces there, I'm gonna be mutable with my emotions in my everyday. So the more I work on that, the more I put that in my 6th house and apply, in this case, since I have my sun there, then that means that my actions, right? If we look at the solar system, the planet has its own nuclear fusion. It's the actions, it's our conscious. So wherever we have the sun, that already paints a better understanding of how this life situation is gonna play out. The more we understand what archetype is in our own unique life situation, the more we can tackle it based on our own unique energies. So going back to Pisces, for instance, in the 6th house, that means that my 6th house is very mutable and I deal with the emotions. So the more I work on that, the more I apply the sun, the more I understand how this is going to play out and what I could potentially use. And this is not just about looking at your chart and like thinking and assuming and just predicting that things are going to fatally happen. That's not what astrology is about. It's not this pseudo thing where you just predict and stay there. It's about the self-assurance of going to yourself and looking at your shadow and intuitively picking these things up. In this case, then, where is my Scorpio house? Which we were talking about water. My Scorpio house is in the 3rd house. So there, the archetype I have there would have the lens of the Scorpio archetypal structure, which is fixed water. I'm stuck with the water in my way of communicating, but that's how I transform it. What's the 3rd house? The 3rd house stems from the archetypal, as we know, of Gemini, the mutable twins. It's you gaining your sense of communication. It's mutable air. The 3rd house would stem from the Gemini constellation, as we know. So since I have Scorpio there, then the archetype of that life situation is fixed ways of communicating about my emotions. Because I have Scorpio there in the 3rd house, so the lens would be Scorpio, which is fixed water. And then since the 3rd house traditionally is Gemini, gaining your sense of communication, it's mutable air. When we apply all of this together, it's the life situation manifests as a Scorpio archetype. If I have any planet there, that's me putting the influence. But this is just the life situation. That's the archetype of how my life situation will play out. That's the energy. Scorpio there would mean my form of communicating, my form of getting my sense of mutable air, my sense of communication, would go through a lot of transformations. That's the archetype. And depending if I have my moon there, or let's say I had my sun there, or another planet, and then these planets are aspecting, that's going to change how the energy is going to play out.